Well, hello everybody. So Crafty Kit this month, you are going to use a mold to make a little dish. You can use this dish for lots of different things. It can be a candle holder, it can be a trinket dish. You can use it as a soap dish if you make sure that you seal it nicely inside. So in your Crafty Kit will be a mold to use. And you will have a bag of this Mix2Mold. So this is going to do way more than one. So this is a great deal. You'll be able to use this for lots of different things. So do it with this one mold and then see what you like and how you like the finish of it. And then you can go get yourself other molds to make more. And I do have some fun molds here at the store that you can come down and have a look at as well. Okay, so there are instructions on the back of how much to use of this. So we just mix water and this powder in here. You also, once you get the hang of this, you can start mixing in some liquid color. You can mix in terrazzo chips to get lots of different finishes. But for this part, we are going to be mixing this together, pouring it in the mold. We'll leave it for about an hour to set up. Then we'll demold it. And then once it's nice and dry, because it does give off a little bit of moisture as it's curing, once it's nice and dry, then we will paint it and put some transfers on it, make it look pretty. All right, so there is a little scoop that comes with the bag. This scoop itself is 2 tablespoons, and it does show the measurements inside here, but it also tells you on here. This is quite a large mold. I definitely don't think the medium will do us, probably the large. So we're going to try that. So for the large, we need 12 tablespoons of the powder and 4 tablespoons of the water. So again, this is 2 tablespoons, so we're going to use 6 of these. And you need something to mix it in. I use a jar. I do find this that when you pour it out, you can actually clean it out really, really well. And then I let it dry a bit and I wipe it out and then wash it. But you want to make sure if you have any residue in here that you don't pour it down your drain because it will harden in your drain. Okay, so don't do that. You can use a disposable cup if that's easier for you, just to throw it out. I make so many of these. I don't like to be throwing the cups out all the time. So I just use this glass jar and it works for me. All right. So once you've got it opened, which I swear to God is always the hardest part for me. Yeah. Just do it like this. There we go. All right. So you also need to make sure that you've got something to stir with. I use these little disposable spoons that we always get when we go to Tim Hortons or Wendy's. I don't know, can't remember who it is gives them out, but I save them up and use them for this because they work great for that. Just when you're mixing this, it doesn't have to be super fast. It doesn't set up as fast as, say, quickset resin does, but it will set up. So you do need to have your supplies handy, know what your plan is, know what you're going to do. You have probably about 10 minutes or so of working time for stirring and starting to pour it and everything. All right. Okay, so again, we're going to go with the large mold. So 12 tablespoons. So that's going to be 6 of these scoops. So you can just scoop into your bag. And then honestly, it does not have to be super precise. I try to level it off-ish. 1. This is the part where I can't lose count. 2. 3, 4, 5. That was a bit of a skimpy one. I might do this next one a little bit more. 6. There we go. All right. Okay, so that was 12 tablespoons of the Mix2Mold powder. I need 4 tablespoons of water. I'm just going to use this exact same measure and just dip it in here. So 4 tablespoons, that means we need 2 of these scoops. 1 and 2. Great to have a bit of extra water nearby in case you need it. You saw my measurements were not exactly precise, which is pretty standard for me. Now you're going to start mixing it. You want it, once it's all mixed, to be lump-free And you want it the consistency of sort of cake batter, so thick but pourable. Okay, now the jar that I use does have like a bit of a recessed bottom, so I have to make sure I really get into those edges, get all the powder out. Sorry for the jiggling of the camera. I use a little setup that goes around my neck, and sometimes when I'm stirring it gets a little wiggly. All right. Okay, so you can see that powder. Now, what I want to do now, I've got all the powder incorporated. I just want to make sure I don't have any lumps now. It really mixes up quite easily, which is nice. It's not a challenging thing to mix. The powder dissolves quite quickly. All right. And I'm going to just scrape those sides again, really just like when you're making a cake and you want to get all the batter scraped down off the side so everything's incorporated. And also, because it's a glass jar, it's great. I can look underneath, make sure I don't have any lumps. Okay, so you can see the consistency of that. I don't have any lumps. Then the other thing you want to try to be careful of, and I just messed it up a bit there by picking up the mix and pouring it back in. You want to try to keep the bubbles out. So try to keep those bubbles to a minimum. They do pop quite easily, but it's easier if you just don't have them. Then all you can do now is start pouring it in. Please remember, when you do the mold, this is not the right side to pour into. This is the right side to pour into. So it's almost a bit sort of counterintuitive when you look at it. I have in my past poured things into the wrong side of a mold before. So this is what you're going to be pouring into. And then when you demold it, you're going to end up with something that looks like that. All right. Okay, so great consistency. I'm not seeing a lot of bubbles in there. We're just going to go ahead and start pouring. So pour slowly, and what I like to do is pour over this bottom piece and then let it run down into the sides. I find that easier than trying to aim it into the sides. Now, I like to get it about halfway and pause for a second. Make sure that you are on a solid surface that is flat and level, and then you can tap it a bit. Okay, just like that. And then you'll finish pouring it in. Okay, so you can see the mold is all filled. It's quite liquidy still. So you want it to fill it right up now. I probably could have made a little bit more mix to get it right up to the edge, but this will still work. The amazing stuff about this, because it sets up sort of like a ceramic, but it's fileable. So you can actually take some sandpaper. I use a metal nail file and just will go along and smooth out my edges. And you see how there's a little lump here? I can smooth that out now with this. I can try to anyway, before it sets up. But I can also go and, yeah, I think I just made that worse. So cool. That probably would work better with the spatula. I can smooth those off after it has set up. All right, so this has been sitting for a little over an hour. So we're gonna go ahead and demold it now. So you can see there's those little flops that I had on the back. I'll smooth those out if they're causing me any troubles. That's gonna be the inside of our bowl. So it really is easy to peel. You just have to be a bit firm with it. You can see it doesn't really stick or anything, which is great. If you've poured a bit over the edge, you might find it'll stick a little, but it'll just break right off. So you're gonna just choose an end and start curling it back. Okay. Now these molds are silicone. They can take a lot of tugging and pulling. There we go. So you can see, there we go. It's coming out nicely. It's always my favorite part is the demolding. So there is this absolute beauty. Now when you feel that, it's still going to feel a little warm and damp for you. Definitely let it sit for a little while. Okay. Before you paint it or anything. And then these little pieces here. So if I say, for instance, I've got a little bit of a lip right here, I could just take my metal filing nail file here, and it just comes right down. I'm just going to do that whole lip all the way around. There we go. Really easy. And then for these, if I want to get them a little bit better, I just take a little piece of sandpaper. You don't want anything too high of a grit. You don't want to dig in there at all. So you can see how that's just starting to smooth right out. Okay, and I can work on that as much as I need to, but let's just set it down and see how it does. Nice. Good. It actually sits nice and level, so that's great. Next step then is going to be to seal this. Because this is so porous, we want to seal it just to close up the pores, so when we paint it, the paint will go on nice and smooth. Make sure you reshape your mold, get it back. Don't let it sit too long with it folded one way or another. Those little folds will stay in them. All right, so this one I want to let sit for about 24 hours before I seal it, because I don't want to trap any moisture in there. So for the purposes of our video, I'll grab one that I did yesterday. So here's one from yesterday. I had a little bit of a wobble on the bottom. Oh, I still do. So I'll probably sand a little bit more. I over poured the top a little bit, which is not unusual for me. I'm easily distracted. So I'll probably just work on that a bit. Better. Yeah, quite a bit better now. All right. So we're going to get some Tough Coat matte, and I'm going to seal that up. All right. I only had a tiny bit of matte left in 2 bottles that I had, and I really don't want to open another one. So we'll just see how this works here. Okay. So I'll just kind of pour in what I have. I'm not too worried about the fact that there's some bubbles there. All right. And then got a little paintbrush. Oh yeah, this will do just fine. Nice. And I'm just gonna paint that on there. Okay. And then I'm gonna make sure I do the tops. Again, what we're doing here is just sealing up the pores, so when we paint it with a nice paint, we'll get a much more even finish. Okay, now if you want to use this as a soap dish or something like that, I would suggest doing 2 coats to start the prep for this, and then go ahead and paint it, and then do another 2 or 3 coats on top of your paint once that's dry. All right. Okay. Now I'm just going to work at getting the edges done as well, and the bottom. So I'm just going to let that top and inside dry a little bit so I can flip it over more easily and do the rest of that. All right, so the seal coat is all dry on there, which is great. So I've decided I want to do 2-tone colors. I'm going to do something fun. I want to do hot pink and black. So I'm going to do black on the outside and then hot pink on the inside. I'm going to go ahead and start with my black. I just had some left in a little cup because I was painting something earlier. So I've just propped it up. This is just a wooden furniture leg that I had left over, so I'm using that. All right, so we're just gonna get a coat on there. Want it smooth and even, but it's not gonna be perfect that first time through. I'm gonna have to obviously do a second coat, which I will do. So we'll turn this. So these are just lovely to make for yourself, but also super fun if you want to make some Christmas gifts for your friends, or a little hostess gift going to a party. It's always so nice to have something that you made yourself. And you know, I love to be a little bit creative. Okay, so I've got my first coat on all the way around. I do want to paint the bottom of this as well. Now, you don't have to paint the bottom. It's sealed up, so that's fine. If you want to, if you're giving this for a little gift and you want to write a little note on the bottom, that would be super cute as well. But this is likely going to be for me. So, unless somebody sees it and decides they love it and they need to have it. I'm forever giving things away in the store for that reason. Okay, I'll let that dry. Then I'm going to do another coat. I'll let that dry. Then I'll flip it over and I'll do the inside. right, so now this is nice and dry. I've painted it. Before we put another coat on it to seal it all, we're going to add in some transfers. So I just kind of went through my pile and I found some fun ones that I thought might be kind of cool. And I'm just gonna push this down in here, and then pieces that come over the edge, I will move those along. We're just gonna kind of go like this. Okay, so because it's sort of, you know, bigger than what I am putting it on, it's gonna be a little bit piecey, which is fine. I want sort of a little vintage look to it. Now, if you didn't want that vintage sort of a look, then you would be a little more careful with the size of the transfer piece that you've chosen. I love things that look a little bit beat up and not quite so perfect. And as I get these stuck down, I'm not doing the best job sticking them. I'm basically just getting enough to transfer it off the paper and onto the dish, and then I will smooth it up a bit after I pull this out. Okay, so this is where you just have to get in here, don't worry about being careful, and just do it and then accept how it turns out. Okay, so like that. Okay, and now I'm just going to take my fingers here and smooth this in a little bit. Oh, I absolutely love that. There we go. Okay, and then have some edges I probably could take over, but I'm not going to. Instead, I think maybe, really quite like that the way it is. I might just put one of these on either side, or maybe I'll, you know what? I'm gonna leave it. I love it the way it is. I'm not gonna add any more to it. So now all I have to do is just another couple of coats of Tough Coat in either matte or glossy. I'm probably gonna do matte on the outside and glossy on the inside to make it a little more usable, and then it'll be set. Absolutely gorgeous. Have fun with this craft. This is gonna be a fun one. Thanks, everybody.